What is motivation? Motivation is a process that initiates, guides, and maintains goal-orientated behaviours. But in simplistic terms, motivation is about physically and mentally having the energy to complete any form of task, from getting up and having a shower, to starting up a self-made multi-million-dollar business. Many people struggle with motivation and where to find it within themselves. Well, today we're joined with 4 motivational men who are going to answer some short, quick-fire questions around the topic of motivation within their lives. Firstly, we have Andy Jackson, who is currently Chief Marketing Officer for EcoTour by Gina Fries. Andy has recently produced the first halal-certified hand sanitizer in Southeast Asia. He also used to be Head of International Recruitment for Couture Fashion Week, which is the longest-running New York Fashion Week event. He was also Head of International Recruitment for the Global Short Film Awards at the Cannes Film Festival. Next we have Jamie Andrews, who is currently President of the Student Union at York St John University, where he attended as a former student. Jamie is also the creator of the podcast Boys Don't Cry, which goes in depth about men's mental health and can be found on Spotify right now. Also joining us is Josh Davis, who is currently a cruise director at Epica Liveaboard in Indonesia and a qualified dive instructor. Lastly is Chandler Zastro, who is currently a content creator on the hugely popular media platform TikTok. Chandler has over 100,000 followers on his account Chandlerverse and creates humorous content about films and television shows for his audience. Guys, the first question I have for you today is, what does motivation mean to you?
For me, motivation is doing that thing inside you that you need to do to get what you want. So we're all motivated differently. I mean, it's easy to make comparison between friends and family, but I only really started making sense of how to motivate myself after putting myself in tough decisions and tough places in my life. I mean, the only thing we should be comparing ourselves to is ourselves. Okay, that's what took me a little bit of time to adjust to.
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. So I think motivation to me is all about trying to be the best version of yourself that you can be. I think I struggled a lot at one point trying to be, what other people thought was going to be the best version of me or to be the best at something. But when you stop doing that and you start just trying to really look inside and it sounds really cliche, but when you do, you just do the best for you. That's probably what motivates me now. So again, with the podcast and stuff like that, it's really important to get those conversations started and to have those conversations, especially about men's mental health. And that was one of the things that motivated me was I got a message from somebody saying that listening to the podcast had really helped them because they were quite embarrassed about the stuff that they were going through, and to hear a group of lads talk about it so openly. So that motivation for helping people and for seeing a tangible difference and an impact that we were making, that was a really big motivation as well.
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. I think it can mean a lot of different things to different people and how you how you apply it. But I think motivation, really, if I had to sum it up, is kind of the fuel just to keep you going towards your goals. So it's not the only thing that you need to achieve your goals, but it certainly keeps the engine running. It's a way to keep positive. It's basically fuel for the fire.
Who is your role model that motivated you?
Grant Cardone was like the guy for me. I mean, for 5 or 6 years, I've been listening to his audiobooks. I mean, I've read his New York Times best-selling books. I really, even what I was doing on my phone, whenever I'd have music on my iTunes, I would put his quotes as the album cover. So when I'm listening to music, I'd look at my phone and it would have an inspirational quote there. And it's little things like that that can really change your day.
I think Robert Downey Jr. is probably like I look up to that guy who's done so, he's now a legendary actor and he's so good at what he does, but he's still he went through a lot of problems and all this different stuff in his career, and he was able to fully 180 and just produce this huge cultural just huge international phenomenon, and kind of kickstarting that whole franchise of the biggest movies ever made. And I just like, I always like to think about that whenever I'm like producing or like making any kind of content. It's like anyone can do it. You can have any cards stacked against you, or you can be in a really dark place, but you can still, if you if you put in the time and effort, like you can really come out of whatever, or you can just produce whatever you want to and make yourself whatever you want to be if you put in the time and effort.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, it's probably quite cliche, but my parents were a massive inspiration to me. They're a massive positive light for me. They've both done incredibly well, like in their professional careers and things. You know, we're from quite a low socioeconomic area, but they've worked really hard and they've broken through. And to sort of see just how sort of compassionate and caring they both are was something that I really hoped to mirror. So I'd probably say that they're probably some of the biggest role models.
What advice would you give to your past self?
That it's okay to be unmotivated. It's like that's fine, because I feel like a lot of the best ideas or my best work has come from times when I've had to separate myself from doing anything creative or anything productive, right? Yep. It'll be like I'll be like beating my head against a wall thinking like I need to come up with an idea or I need to be doing something, right? And I feel like absolute garbage because I haven't produced or made something, or something's not performing right or whatever. Like I just have it in my head that like everything's not working and I need to be working harder. And it's like, really, it took me going out and doing something like fishing, right? Or something completely unrelated to go out and be like, oh, that's now like all the kind of pieces come together, right? So yeah, definitely that, like just any time that I was like really kind of like just beating myself up for not being like 100% all the time, like those are the times that I had to like remind myself like, oh yeah, human being, chill out for a little bit, it'll be fine. Probably
that things do get better. I know again that it's such an easy thing to say now, and the hindsight is a wonderful thing, but I speak quite candidly and openly about it during like the podcast. I think that's really important to do. But there were some really bad periods for me, sort of at the end of first year and going into second year, and I was really at my lowest. So if I could sort of talk to myself, it would be about, you know, things do get better, and just by talking to people about what I was going through, like that was a really important step for me, making my friends aware. My friends were really supportive, my family was supportive, and it really got me through it. So yeah, just making myself aware that, you know, there are brighter days ahead.
Okay, right, it's going to be all right. We just got to take things step by step, one thing at a time, and just approach things very slowly and never panic about anything, because it's getting better.
Have you got an inspirational quote that you could share with us?
I mean, Harper Lee once said, many receive advice, but only the wise profit from it. And that really resonates with me, not because of just in sales, but I've had some people very, I'll call them mentors in my life, where things weren't going right. And at the time I didn't realize that what they're saying was actually to help me. So, I mean, if you are looking to progress in business, if you're looking to progress in what you're doing in your job, find a mentor and listen to it.
I'm trying to think of like what the actual quote was, but it's like Matthew McConaughey gave this like Oscar speech one year. Somebody asked him who his hero was, right? And he told him, it's me in 10 years. And so he's always chasing that guy 10 years down the road. And so even 10 years later, when he gets asked again, like, okay, well, now it's been 10 years, who's your hero? He's like, it's still me in 10 years, right? Like I'm always chasing that person, like always trying to be the best version of yourself. And I think about that a lot.
The bit in Rocky where he's talking about, you know, it's not about how hard you get hit. It's about getting hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving. And I suppose that even though it's a film all about boxing, it's probably quite a good metaphor for life, is that it doesn't matter if, you know, if you do have a bad experience, if you do have a bad time, it's all about trying to drive yourself through and to keep going. And having setbacks isn't the end of the world, it's part of life. And just know that you're doing fantastic, just to pick yourself back up and to keep going.
there's a poem that I'm very fond of, and it's one of the main lines in it is nurture strength of spirit, okay, in times of sudden misfortune, okay, and it's basically taught me to just try and work on yourself when you are up.
If you or anyone you know is struggling with motivation and would like to share and compare stories, head to our website, which is linked below, and join our forums, as one of the greatest forms of motivation comes from others. But if your lack of motivation stems from mental health issues, please contact any of the following charities that are listed below. And remember, no dream is out of sight when you are motivated enough for it.